Hey everybody, it's Ken Perry with Broker Knowledge Group. This is your Wednesday update, and we have a ton to talk about, mainly around this new foreclosure settlement. So let's just get going. Last week, they announced a settlement in which 5 major banks, and also some other ones that aren't, on that big list, will now have to give up, they've said $25 billion because of some of the violations over mishandling of foreclosures, robo-signing, working on a modification while you're foreclosing on somebody, stuff like that. And so here's the impact to you. If you have been in a foreclosure and maybe you've already lost your house, there's a potential you're about to get a check from your servicer. And so they will just write you a check, ship it to you, it shows up in the mail, very exciting. It's one of many opportunities for you to actually get a check in the mail after you've been foreclosed on. So there's a couple different things going on. This is just one of them. So that's the first thing, is they're writing checks. The second thing though, and this is what I see as really the big thing, and that is the new modification program that's coming out of this. So in the past, you would have a borrower who's got a $300,000 loan on a $200,000 house. And you can modify them by taking them from 6% down to 4%, but it really didn't keep them in the house. Their payment's a little bit lower, but at the end of the day, they look at it and go, I owe $100,000 more than my house is worth, and they still walk. And so the new modification that's coming out of this settlement from last week is banks will actually be going in and doing principal reduction modifications. They're required to under this new settlement, which means you owe $300, it's worth $200, they come in and they just slice off a portion of your balance. The anticipated response is that people will look at that and go, hey, maybe I'll stay in my house. I'm only upside down a tiny bit and I do love this house and I can afford this new payment. They stay in the house. Now what that does is it pulls out that shadow inventory of houses that we all thought was gonna be a pain. And so all those foreclosures that are currently on the market in some stage of foreclosure, or they're on the market because they're in a short sale or the person can't afford their payment, that stuff may come off the market, which then decreases the amount of volume of homes on the market, which then increases the value of each marketplace. So that's my anticipated result, is if this really works like it's supposed to, in the first year, something like 80% of this money is going to be divvied out. That means you'll actually be able to see an impact pretty quickly. Now, in addition to the banks doing that type of modification deal, the states have been given a bunch of money to do the same thing. California has $12 billion that they plan on putting into debt reduction. That means going to homeowners who are currently upside down on their house and just giving them money to be able to bring that back to, whether it's bringing it back to 100% of current value or what it is, they get to choose how they dole that money out. So you'll see states giving money out, you'll see the banks giving money out, you'll see a lot of money being dumped on homeowners and past homeowners. So what you're not hearing about though in most of the news that I'm reading is the rest of that settlement. The rest of that settlement discusses new training standards for all of these settlement providers. So if you are you service a bunch of loans, like say a Bank of America, they now have to train everybody in their department. They have to make sure they have policies, procedures, and training for everybody to make sure that this doesn't happen again, that the robo-signing and that kind of stuff is gone. So training's implemented. Now and this one's a really big deal, and that is they're separating out modifications and foreclosure departments. So in other words, I call it the one action rule, and it's not the actual one action rule, it's my fancy nickname for it, but and that is, if you're in a modification situation, they can't put you also in the foreclosure department. So when you call up to modify your house, according to the new standards, you will say, I want to talk to Bob, because you get your very own case manager, and that's new. So you call and you talk to Bob. Bob is your case manager. Bob goes, let's work on modifying your loan. Bob is now required to walk me through a series of steps, including some counseling, some analysis of my debt situation to see if there's any way they can save that house. If I can't get that house saved through the modification, then it moves into foreclosure. And now I know there's nothing I can do. I can either short sell that house or I can let it drop into foreclosure, but not at the same time as I'm trying to modify. So hopefully that makes sense. It's now 2 completely separate things. And now you don't call the lender and go, hey, can I talk to Bob? Oh, Bob's not here anymore. I'm Susie. Oh, hey, Susie. No, I got to transfer to Lance. Now that's all going to be one person that you get when you call up. So that's going to clear off just a ton of the confusion when it comes to modification and short sales. What this means for you is if you're watching this and you are currently upside down on your house, or you are currently in some sort of foreclosure situation, or you can't afford your payment, I would say give them about a week or two and then start calling your servicer. and just go, hey, I saw this, what's my piece of the pie? How do I throw my name in the hat for some money? Now, chances are you may not do that and you may still get money. But if I'm you, I'd probably at least make the phone call. By the way, the servicers are all going to hate me because I just said to do that. But they're also staffing up to be able to manage that. The way this affects our loan origination industry is that as a loan originator, you're competing. So let's say a state licensed originator, which means you've taken your test, background check, and all that stuff, which is only required of state licensed professionals, not federal banking institutions. So if you're a state licensed professional, think about this. The 5 major lenders, home mortgage lenders out there, 5 of them are now having to take a lot of that staff and dump them into the modification, the short sale department. And so your competition is kind of slimmed down a little bit. So now you're the ones providing mortgage help. The banks are now having to work a lot more on keeping people in their homes and working through that than they are origination. Now I can't guarantee you that they're going to take all their origination staff and move them over, but I can tell you they've got to do a lot of work, and that's going to be that focus from the banks. So you could see a shift in origination is what I'm kind of expecting out of all of this. Now let me leave you with one final thing. Fraud. State licensed originators have never been on the list of people who have to automatically report any fraud. Well, it's a new change. So on February 13th, which is Monday, they actually came out, FinCEN, which is your fraud investigators, it's your network of enforcement folks. They came out and said, here's a final rule. Every single state licensed originator, whether you have 5 people in your office or whether you have 500 people in your office, you have to have a new policy on how you handle fraud reporting. Not only do you have to have a policy, you also have to have training for people on fraud reporting. You also have to do follow-ups to make sure people are looking for these red flags of mortgage fraud. It's going under the guise of stopping terrorism, which always makes things pass through a lot faster than other things. So watch for that. We're doing a webinar for that coming up next Thursday, and so we'll throw some information at the end of the video so you can sign up for that. That we're doing on the cheap just to try and get it out to you guys so you have the information that you need to continue to be compliant in this marketplace. You guys, that's a huge amount of information. So if you haven't taken your internet CE and you're a loan originator, make sure you catch us at brokerknowledge.com. Haven't taken live CE, do the same. And then yes, I am growing a beard because I was in Arizona last week, and Matt Baker from the Bookspan Baker team of Cobalt Mortgage has a brand new beard, and I was jealous. So yeah, you'll see this every week. Have a great week. We'll see you next week when this thing is down here. See you guys later.